Hello, and this is the RotD deep dive discussion video on The Eye, the original 2002 Peng Brothers Hong Kong version. And the point that I made in the review that I really want to get straight into is that portion of the fear quotient where there's a difference, a direct, solid, defined line between creepy and scary. And the main point that I'll bring there is that line is dangerous stakes. That there has to be an element of dangerous stakes, even deathly stakes, for the character. Otherwise, the creepy is just creepy, and it's never scary. And in this, I think there's a great example of that. Name one thing that happened in this movie that could have harmed the main character, that put her life in jeopardy. There was nothing. All of the things that she saw, the little boy, the guy in the elevator, all of the old woman being taken by death, even the things that were taking the souls in the first place, absolutely nothing. And even the main the main girl that gave the corneal transplant, that she ended up having to find out who that was in Thailand. Nothing was actually endangering the main character, and I think it really kind of drove that point home, even when she got sick of seeing things and isolated herself, and the doctor, that was an element that I really didn't necessarily think that was entirely necessary, was the love relationship with the doctor and her. But regardless, that's another issue. But when the doctor convinced her to stop being so isolated, and it really did hammer home the notion of all of this could be solved with absolutely no action, with nothing being done except changing the mental state around it, realizing that, well, this is simply the way things are, and that's fine. And I mean, nothing in there was the most that it got was the aggressive ghost in the calligraphy studio, and even then it simply screamed and rushed her, but poof, that was it. And it just became clear that there were no dangerous stakes, that she was not at any point in danger physically at all. And I think at that point it's difficult for it to become scary, because we as the audience members, we just can't help but think, okay, well, all you have to do is learn to deal with this, right? Problem solved. And that's it. There's nothing at stake. If the ghosts were able to harm her, if she saw them doing something, if they had, and I've seen this done in a few TV shows and movies and so forth, where somebody can see the ghosts and they're doing something very subtly emotionally manipulative to somebody. They're hopping on their backs and pulling some strings to make them depressed and things like that. If she was able to see the ghost doing something subtle like that, dragging a person down and weighing them down, even on an emotional grinding level, where they're totally unaware that they have this spirit attached to them, then now the stakes are elevated. Now they're causing harm, and they're capable of causing harm. And I think it wouldn't have been a very big stretch to incorporate that element in the movie. And I think one of the best moments that they could have done that was when she was eating at the restaurant and the girl had that conversation with her, "Oh, you can see them too?" And then that one line, I think, really could have changed things, where she said, "They don't like to be seen." I think that was the perfect moment to set up the possibility of dangerous, aggressive ghosts. If they realized that they were being seen by Mun, and then were able to not just scare her passively, but actively attack, I think that could have changed everything about the movie and brought it right into the full front, full force, scary element to it. But regardless, it just kind of stayed creepy. The portions of the movie that I really, really liked was her. One was her relationship with what was it? Ling Ling, the little girl that was Ying Ying, the little girl that was going through chemo. Her relationship with Ying Ying, and then uh, towards the end when she saw Ying Ying and Ying Ying was being taken by the spirit and realized that she was dead. I thought that that was very wonderfully crafted and brought home the point of, uh, it, it kind of served my point of it could have been scarier by also flipping that switch in the character's head of, well, this is simply life and it could be a good thing. Um, so creepy, not scary again. Uh, but I think that it actually worked really well in a character development and plot development point of view because it also allowed that moment of she's able to show the older uncle doctor that this is her reality and it's not just in her head. And I really like the relationship between her and Ying Ying, and I thought that having that element was very carefully crafted from Act 1 all the way to Act 3, or well, at least the end of Act 2, and I thought that was a good bit of writing there, having that character in there. I mentioned in the review that I thought that the very last part was redundant and didn't necessarily need to be there. And by that, I mean that the movie had a narrative that was, well, it kind of hopped from one foot to the other. It really didn't know exactly what direction it wanted to go. It was a mystery of why she was seeing what she was seeing, and then it turned into, I think, of the point where she realized that the reflection she was seeing was different than her actual self, was a shift into away from the mystery of why she was seeing, necessarily why she was seeing what she was seeing, and more into who was this person that I'm seeing in the mirror and tracking them down, which kind of bleeds into the first part. But all that got wrapped up, and she was able to see the torture and the torturous life that the character went through that gave her the corneal transplant. And I thought that that hit home, and I thought that it had a good emotional punch, and I thought it had a good resolution. And then they had the scene with the explosion on the street, and I get it. I get that it's playing to the symmetry of the original Girl versus Mun and the similarities in what is happening there and the futility of her trying to help this mass of people using this site that she has that she never wanted. I get it, but it didn't seem like it was really that necessary. Like I said, we've already seen what that original character was going through. We've already seen, the original person with the cornea, the sight, the eye, and we've already been through that journey, and we've already concluded that journey. We've wrapped it up, and I just think that you could have lopped off the last 5-6 minutes and the entire scene with the street, and it would have been just as good of a movie, if not possibly better. At some point, you try to drive the point home too hard, and I think that I'm kind of doing that in this review right now. I'm driving this point home too hard. So that's generally just how I feel. I really did enjoy the movie. I thought there were certain parts of it that definitely could have used more polish. I thought there were certain parts of it that could have used more expressiveness. But ultimately, what it really could have used was higher stakes and dangerous stakes to elevate it from creepy to scary. And that about wraps it up. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, I would love to hear it. Please leave comments, and I will be engaging with them. I would love to have discussions with everybody that is watching this. So that should about do it for today. Until tomorrow, thank you very much for joining me.